I was able to meet Bryan at the DevOps Enterprise Summit last fall, and I will say that I remember it vividly because we walked into the speakers dinner, which was super overwhelming for me. It was my first time going to the summit, and walked in and there's all these people, and right away I met Bryan, and he had so much energy and so much knowledge to share. And throughout the couple days, I learned so much from him. So I'm super appreciative that he is willing and able to be with us today. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and let Bryan kick us off.
Thanks, Amanda. Several years ago, we were having a discussion and we decided that we needed to make some things better. And I'm going to tell the story about that and how these things make this better. So first, hang on, why is it not advancing? There we go. All right, so first, I want to just level set on what we mean by continuous delivery. It's the ability to get all changes of all types safely and quickly and sustainably delivered. And personally, I was involved with an experience it started back in 2014 in Walmart, where we had this giant, terrible monster of a system. We were delivering it every quarter. Hopefully as often as every quarter. It was blowing up for every delivery. It was a complete nightmare to deal with. And in fact, if you come to New York next month to QCon, I'm going to go and have a deep dive of how we did this. But we were given a challenge by our leadership to make this thing deliver much more quickly. And so we dug into continuous delivery, and we did a lot of things around changing team structure and changing application architecture, and went from ultimately quarterly delivery to multiple times a day with very high levels of quality and much higher morale. And that the morale aspect of it was something that we didn't expect. And it's why I'm so passionate about this, is because every team should have that experience of just delivering with no drama and more joy. And then, that took a couple of years. We actually started using continuous delivery at Walmart as the method for improving how we delivered everything. Instead of a goal, it was like the tool for changing the enterprise. And we saw a lot of success around that as well. And then in 2018, Accelerate came out and really confirmed all the things that we were seeing. And this wasn't some special thing because of how we were doing it. It was that the methods we were using for improving things actually made deployment pain less, reduced burnout, improved culture, improved quality, all these things. Now, the problem with this is that Accelerate came out, and then people started really focusing on, we need to do CD, let's do CD. And wow, and my text is the wrong color, but then we start seeing problems because we're seeing this all over the place. Buy all the tools, give everybody pipelines. Now we're doing continuous delivery, right? I mean, we're seeing this all the time. And the results is that if you just give people tools without the knowledge about how to work the process, continuous delivery is a workflow. It's not automation. It just leverages automation. And this is something that we were seeing in multiple conversations from people all over the globe, right? Is that you get bad outcomes because we're just throwing the same process down automation. You get CD doesn't work here. Things are blowing up all the time. CD is far too risky. Or you have management telling teams, you're just not mature enough for CD. When you get mature enough, then you can do continuous delivery. But again, CD is the lever for change, not the goal. But then CD gets banned. And I've literally had people tell me that continuous delivery has been banned in their organization due to those poor outcomes. So in 2021, when DevOps Enterprise Summit was still virtual, and thank God it's not anymore, but this actually fostered an opportunity because we had people from all over the globe attending the conference, and we were meeting at the virtual bar and having a conversation about this. Is like, this is a real problem, that all of this agile stuff and DevOps stuff is garbage without continuous delivery. Continuous delivery is literally the point and the engine to drive improvement. If we can't continuously deliver, then why are we trying to improve anything? And so we thought, well, we can just sit here around the bar and drink and gripe about it, or we could help fix it. And we decided to go for option number 2. And we gathered, and this was on day 1 of the conference. And so we spent the next 3 days during breaks meeting, pulling people in to get different points of view and see if we can come up with solutions. And my dogs are going crazy. But we had a goal, right? Is we wanted a minimum set of behaviors that are measurable. Either we're doing this behavior or we're not doing this behavior. That is true in every context. And so we had Rosalind Radcliffe come in and talk about mainframe. I'm currently working in a situation where we're trying to figure out how to do continuous delivery in air-gapped environments or even water-gapped environments. I mean, think of CD to a submarine. Firmware or whatever it is, right? It's got to be true in every context. And we're looking for behaviors that are challenges, that solving these challenges will reduce pain. And that's really the goal, is reducing the pain of delivery, improving the flow of value. It's not automation for automation's sake. It's not CD for CD's sake. It's CD for making the world better. And then 3 days later, we released version 1 of minimum viable continuous delivery with this goal, right? Is that we know that CD is a better way of working. We know it reduces burnout, but we want to help people do it in a way where they can progress safely towards continuous delivery and solve several problems to get there. And that solving those problems, again, makes the organization better. And as of 2 weeks ago, actually, no, this is out of date. We passed 200 signatures recently. We have 44 contributors from all over the globe. And we continue getting feedback about how people are using this as like a roadmap to help try to drive improvement in their organizations. Now, I want to talk about the things we've settled on. And we worked really hard to pare this down. Like, this is the bare minimum. These things, if there were several good ideas presented that were either not true in every context or not the absolute MVP for continuous delivery. It's like, yes, those are really good ideas, and people should take those forward after they get to the minimums. And we actually have a section on the website called Beyond the Minimums, where people keep adding things that work. But this was stuff that we said is the bare minimum. So first, you're not doing continuous delivery without continuous integration. And in the website, we break down, this is the definition of CI. There's one definition of CI, and if it's not this, then you're not doing CI. Solving for continuous integration really is a big part of the problem. If you can actually do CI, you're going to uncover so many problems within the team that's working or with, outside the team that's impacting the team. And if you think about, we want to improve our value stream, you can map your value stream, but living it is a really good way to uncover problems. Next, the application pipeline is the only way to deploy to every environment. And this is something else I see people getting wrong all the time. It's like, oh, we deliver to the development environment from our develop branch, which has a different pipeline from the trunk, which has a different pipeline from a hotfix branch or whatever. No, you have one path to deploy to every environment because we're validating the artifact. Solving that problem, again, causes you to have to really focus on how we're doing testing and what our workflow is like. And by the way, hey, we can't do that with Git flow, so we need to figure something out. The pipeline decides releasability of changes. Its verdict is definitive. This, again, creates a forcing function around what our quality process is. You can't have manual process handing off outside the team, doing all sorts of just terrible. I mean, I can't tell you how bad having an external QA team is to the quality of the product, right? Bringing it into the pipeline, making sure the pipeline is validating that we're secure, that we're compliant, all these things, not theater, but actual things we're measuring in the pipeline to validate that we are deliverable. And that's the next one, is that the pipeline always delivers artifacts that meet the organization's definition of deployable, whatever that is. And that's going to be completely contextual. You know, if I'm delivering things for, like the Air Force, it's going to have a much higher level of threshold for security than if it's a cat video website. So you need to define what your definition of deployable is, and then make sure your pipeline starts incrementally driving that and improving that. Immutable artifacts. This means that once change enters Git and starts flowing through the pipeline, we're not allowed to modify that artifact at all. And when we first started learning how to do this at Walmart, we'd have a situation where we'd kick off, we'd merge a change, the build would kick off, and then it would pass like one test environment, go to the next test environment, and it fail because of a configuration error. And what would happen is that, from habit, when one of the developers said, well, okay, well, let's just modify the configuration error over here in this environment. I'm like, no, everything starts at version control, because otherwise we don't have a repeatable build. We start creating all these snowflakes. And it's not the code, it's everything around the code. The configuration is part of it. So we have to start at Git and move all the way through. The next one's a behavior thing. All feature work stops when the pipeline is read. And this comes back to the reason for the pipeline is, number one, to prevent bad change from going to production, and number two, to give us rapid feedback on quality issues. But if the pipeline is red and I'm sitting here just coding away, hoping one day that the pipeline will turn green, then I'm just generating waste. I have no way to validate the quality of what I'm building. And again, from a culture point of view, you don't want to sit there and say, hey, Bob, you broke the build, go fix it. No, we as a team broke the build because we didn't harden our processes enough so that somebody couldn't break it. You use new people, if at all possible, to go and push change, find out what breaks in the pipeline, and then harden the pipeline. It's the team's job. And in fact, when I was working in the dojo at Walmart, I would tell teams that, you're a product team, but your primary product is the pipeline to deliver value. And then you validate your pipeline by delivering value and finding out what breaks, and then harden your pipeline. You need production-like test environments, whatever that production's like. And I've seen all sorts of examples of people doing this really well. I mean, there's one organization I worked with that delivers satellites. They do continuous delivery to satellites, and they have a satellite in their pipeline that developers can flow change to and validate change breaks when they start rolling out change across thousands of satellites in orbit. You need rollback on demand, and this is part of being self-healing. If we have a failed deploy, we don't want to just leave it out there and impact everybody. It should just auto roll back. And so this is another challenge to solve. We have to make sure we have all the infrastructure in place that allows this to happen. And it allows us to have much faster reaction to bad change. And application configuration deploys with the artifact. This goes back to, we're testing the artifact as a thing. And we don't create snowflake environments where it works over here and doesn't work over here. And again, the background I come from isn't deploying web apps to the cloud. The background I come from is deploying logistics systems to the edge at around 300 distribution centers across the globe. And before we got much better, you're looking at each one of the distribution centers as a data center with Snowflake Unix boxes out there that are, randomly changed. We had to make that better. So I've got a couple of examples here of how these things make better, right? So continuous integration, number one, this is the definition, right? Is it tested changes integrate to the trunk at least daily. It doesn't integrate to a develop branch. It doesn't integrate once a week. It doesn't integrate at the end of the sprint. It's to the trunk at least daily, or it's not CI. And at least daily is the absolute minimum. If you're flowing change really well on a team that's working very well together, it's going to be much more frequent than that. Changes, to the best of our knowledge, are deliverable. This means that like 85% of our testing is happening as part of CI. What can we do to verify before it leaves my desktop that this thing isn't going to break? And really focusing on how do we architect tests to get this done. And I'll tell you that telling developers learn how to unit test is insufficient. There's a much more levels of testing that has to happen than that. And when we started focusing on this at Walmart, we decided that it was obvious we had to fall passionately in love with testing instead of just pushing code. And again, fixing a broken build is our highest priority. And we've covered this. And when at Walmart, I literally wrote the rules for CI up on a piece of paper in my team's area and said, why can't we do this? And that was our daily retrospective. Okay, what do we need to tackle next? What do we need to tackle next? And instead of saying, hey, let's scrum better, or having retrospectives about, boy, it'd be nice if we could have better coffee, we had daily retrospectives about how do we make CI better? And then later, how do we make CD better? CI is incredibly effective at uncovering waste. We had to go and fix how we did testing. We had a handoff to a testing team and they were testing terribly. We got better at testing, eventually told the QA department that we didn't need the testing team anymore because we were doing it better, and we demonstrated that, and they let us, remove that team. You'll find all sorts of process overhead. I've had people tell me, oh, we can do continuous delivery with Git flow. I double dog dare you. The level of process overhead that required to get that done is terrible. Defects. So I'll tell you that continuous delivery really requires total quality ownership. Total quality ownership means that I am personally impacted if I ship crappy code. It doesn't mean I get to throw it over the wall for somebody else to pick up the pieces. But if you have that total quality ownership, you suddenly become hyper aware of, hey, I'm making changes every single day or more frequently, and I don't want to keep waking up. So I really need to focus on how do we detect and remove defects. Waiting. When you're delivering every quarter and getting feedback about all the things that are broken or missing or whatever every quarter, I mean, wouldn't it have been great if we'd found that out like a slot sooner? And spent a lot less money, or we delivered the wrong thing entirely. Would it have been great if we could have known that up front. When we started really nailing this in logistics, my team was delivering between 5 to 10 times a day. We were getting feedback directly from users and distribution centers. We could spin around a change. They'd offer a suggestion, or hey, this isn't quite working the way we want, and we could spin that change around within 24 hours, and just the amount of money we saved by being able to iterate that quickly and removing that waiting waste is awesome. Fixing these things just makes the work suck less. It literally made us love development again. I gave a talk with a teammate in 2017 where we literally had a slide that says, we love development again, because it just made everything so much better, and we were able to deliver value a lot more effectively. And the customer, our business partners, are very happy with the results for that. One path in the environment. Again, this forces us to really hyper-focus on the quality process. And this means we also only have one path to deliver any change. It doesn't matter if it's a feature or a hot fix. We have exactly one way to deliver change. Which means that, and this is something that always drives me crazy, is when people put all this heavy process on delivering a feature, and they say, well, we have to make sure our quality is high. Well, 3 o'clock in the morning when there's a nightmare going on in production, we don't care about the quality of our change. I mean, that's when we want our safest change to be delivered. And so if we are focusing on continuous delivery correctly, then what we're saying is that it's always an emergency. We always use our emergency process. We are engineering our quality flow so that we can fix production very, very fast with high quality. And the point is not feature delivery. The point is being able to react to change that we need to make quickly, and that we're using features and delivering those very quickly to validate the effectiveness of our pipeline. So we put this together, and then of course the immediate question is this another maturity model? But no, it's not. It's an improvement journey. These are simple problems that we need to solve, that we know from experience, if we solve these problems, it will make the organization better. Again, we experienced this. It was an unexpected outcome of just trying to improve delivery. We leveraged it at Walmart as our primary means for improving the enterprise. I'll tell you that leadership is incredibly important. When leadership changed, the focus got lost, and then we started seeing some of the problems that you can have with continuous delivery without discipline. But if you focus on these things with discipline, it will improve your organization. They're measurable. I mean, these are things that are not vague. It's just objective. We can do this or we can't do this. These are true or false. And this was really important to us as well. It's great to have principles, that are kind of vague, but really we need North Star metrics of this is true, this is false, so that we know if we're doing it well or not. So where do we start? Okay, we start with why can't we deliver today? Define releasable in your context. Fall passionately in love with testing. Dig into the architecture of effective tests. I talked to Michael Nygaard one time, and he told me he used to have that he would put a test in his pipelines that if the test suite ran longer than 15 minutes, the tests would fail, to force refactoring of the tests to make them more effective. And I personally dug in really deep into this because we didn't know how to test in 2014. None of us did, because we had a testing area who did that for us. We had to learn how. It takes less time than you imagine, but you really have to focus on it at least as much as you do the engineering of the software you're delivering. Start with CI. CI is, again, a very effective tool. If all you do is focus on CI because you've got constraints around delivery, focus on that. One of the things I talk about, I've got a paper I wrote called How to Misuse and Abuse DORA Metrics. And the experience we had was that a lot of teams don't have any sort of control at all over delivery frequency. And you can't use that to drive improvement if they don't. But what they do have control over in every context is how frequently integrating code, how small stories are in duration, and what our defect rates are. We can control those at the team level, and a team can use those to drive improvement within the team. You can't just jump from whatever terrible process we're using now to we're going to deploy automatically to production. Start looking at what does our quality process look like now? What are we validating? And then start automating those things. As we automate those things, we free up more time to automate more things. But define releasable, start automating it, and make sure it's solid and keep hardening your pipelines. And you have to look at team structure. We didn't do this with this 25 million line terrible system that was being built with random contributions by featured factory teams with projects. We started by looking at how do we need to re-architect the teams to decouple the system so that those new products can ship much more quickly. And again, if you come to QCon next month, you can hear me go into a deep dive on this, but you're going to struggle if you just say we're going to lift and shift this legacy nightmare to continuous delivery with project teams. You need to have teams with component ownership, and you need to have those teams aligned cross-functionally and not in functional silos so that they can deliver independently of each other. And relentlessly improve. This is key. You're never done improving. How can we make it easier? How can we lower the cognitive load? What platforms do we need to provide to teams to make it easier for them to deliver as a team level? How are we looking at our tests, refactoring those tests to make them more comprehensive, but also fast at the same time? It's called engineering. You don't just throw unit tests at every function. It just doesn't work that way. So we still need help, though. We're currently translated into, and actually we added one recently. Into German, Spanish, French, Finnish, Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese at this point. We have people who say, hey, you know, there's a spelling error over here or whatever. I mean, this is a community project. This is not something that's static. I don't own it. I'm just one of the contributors. We want the community engaged. We want to expand. You know, if you have experience reports, we have an area there for experience reports where you can say, this is what we've done and this is what we've tried. It's basically, how do we have the community help the community grow? And that's what this is all about. Here's the core team for minimumcd.org. There's me, Ferrix in Finland, Istvan, Jarek, and Istvan's online as well. Justin Abrams, Patrick Kelso, and Tracy Bannon. We're all passionate about this topic, and we will all talk your ear off if you give us the chance. I encourage you to go look at the website, dig around, and if you disagree with anything, raise an issue. Let's have a conversation. Join the Slack community and let's have a conversation. It's all about community. Because it's out there doesn't mean it's correct. Everything we do is probably wrong in some way. With that, I'm open to any questions. We can do a lean coffee thing. Yes, if you go to the website, there is a link to the Slack org. All the information is out there on the website.
Bryan, thank you so very much. I feel like I have the same energy that I got from you in Vegas last fall. I love your enthusiasm. I'm so thankful for all of the contributors, because I think this is where we struggle, and you've all been able to make it actionable and understandable. And I'm looking forward to our discussion now.
Yeah, it's kind of my hobby.
I kind of feel like you're the CD champion cheerleader. You get everybody excited.
I hope so, because the nightmare I don't want to run into is I join another organization and they don't do continuous delivery and I have to suffer through that crap again.